Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, anang onimi wen adishnakaz, makwanan dodem, nizarakang gaye laktamalak, First Nation and Doji. My name is Celeste Pedri-Spade. My Indian name translates to star dancing. I'm from the Bear Clan, and my home community is Laktamalak First Nation, which is located, how long does it take? Maybe about 20 hours from here northwest of a drive, where I was born and raised in northwestern Ontario. Here, it is an honor to fulfill the role of the Associate Provost of Indigenous Initiatives here at McGill. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone here today, my colleagues, community members, distinguished guests, as we come together to acknowledge the raising of the Hiawatha Wampum Belt Flag. It's a commitment that we carry out yearly around the summer solstice or National Indigenous Peoples Day. This year, we're also celebrating another milestone in our pathway towards reconciliation as we commit to a new and exciting Indigenous tuition initiative that stems from the Provost Task Force on Indigenous Studies and Indigenous Education. Okay. But before we provide more details regarding this commitment, I'd like to welcome up Mike Loft, who's a community member, an elder from Ganawage, who has a long-standing relationship with McGill University. I believe that it goes back about 50 years, there we go, half a century. And Mike has been instrumental to much of the work that we're advancing here in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. So if you would come up, Mike. And at the same time as he's here, I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of our other elders that are helping us advance our work, including Mike Mitchell and Pat Oakes, who have been very active in supporting our work here. Will you come?
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Loft, Tawiaganat, Yujats. For those who don't know me, my name is Michael Loft. I'm from Ganawage, born and raised. And today I just want to do a couple of words on this important day. Well, it's actually the day before, but that's okay. Today, on National Indigenous Peoples Day, I stand before you, a proud member of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people of Canada. We gather to celebrate our vibrant cultures, our languages, and our traditions. We honor our ancestors and our elders also, and our future generations. We remember our history, our struggles, and our resilience. This very land that we're standing on here today, this is our home, and it bears the footprints of our ancestors. It echoes their voices, their stories, and their wisdom. That's what's in this ground here. Every mountain, every river, every tree is a testament to our enduring relationship with this land, Tiohtià:ke. But today is not just about remembering, it's about envisioning a future where our rights are respected, our cultures are celebrated, and our voices are heard. So let us walk together on this journey of reconciliation. I do believe in the reconciliation. It's gotta happen. And let us build a Canada that acknowledges its past, more importantly, learns from its past, and strives for a better future. On this National Indigenous Peoples Day, let's remember that we are not just part of this land. We are its original caretakers. It's personal. We have one of our ancient beloved symbols, the Hiawatha Belt Flag, which is there. It's an ancient symbol to remind everyone of this nowadays. It's on top of the Arts Building. And thanks to Provost Manfredi, it's on the convocation stage where all our Native students can see some vestige of Indianness when they graduate every year. And I'm really thankful for that. For me, you know, I don't do great things here, but this is a dream come true. Because I've been, you know, bouncing around McGill for the past 48 years or so. And because this wasn't the reality when I was back in the early 70s when I came here. It was a, you know, an indigenous desert, so to speak. There's nothing here. And it's changed, and for me, it's changed a lot. Got the Hochelaga rock out there to always remind people as well. So let's honor this responsibility. We have this responsibility as a Wahua, you know, as Anishinaabe people, Inuit people, Métis people, not just to be the caretakers. Remember, we are the caretakers. We must never forget that. Not just today, but for every day. Now, for your attention to this, to me, have a great afternoon.
Nioa, miigwech, Mike. I'd now like to welcome up, and please, I'm learning Ganyageha as somebody who's also reclaiming Anishinaabe Moen, and I tell you, it's really hard, because every time you see another language, you're trying to pronounce it in your own. But Ohande Yande Ne Raji Sahi O Gasahanahawe, otherwise known as Grand Chief Sky Deer. We're so grateful that you're here today on behalf of the Mohawk Council of Ganawage to say a few words. And I'd like to acknowledge, along with you, you have the Education Portfolio Chief, Russ Montour. I tried. I gotta practice.
Sego zawagwego, wat kunuaradu, gasanahawe, sky deer yajats, wagatahuni ni wagitero, the ganawage ni the wagano, dano ziniata gamhawagiri ne honda iade ne radizahayas. Very honored to be here. Greetings, everybody, all of the people who are gathered here today. Gasanahawe Sky Deer, Grand Chief. Would like to welcome Minister Lafreniere, Francis from the AFN, all of the representatives here from different educational institutions, but of course, McGill. You know, the relationship that we've started to embark on in the last little while with professors, obviously, Celeste Pedri-Spade, Manfredi, and also Professor Saini has really culminated now to this point. And this is just an amazing declaration, not only for the flag raising, which has been done now, but, you know, for this tuition initiative for Haudenosaunee students. You know, we say that education is a cornerstone now for our people because we have to be educated not only in mainstream education, but in our own ways and our own philosophies, our culture, our ceremonies. So it's a big burden on our young people. And then recently, we've seen what's been happening with Bill 96 and the requirement for French. It's another burden. Our young people have it really difficult, you know, to walk on this path of seeing what has happened to our ancestors, what has been lost. You know, we're speaking this foreign language now. But, you know, I look at history and things have happened for a reason, unfortunately. Because now, as Ungwehungwe people right across this country, we can culminate together and do things beyond what our ancestors ever imagined. Because we speak a foreign language, because we can understand each other, because we can gather, because we can learn. We're educated now. We've seen what has happened. We know where we need to go in our future. Today you're going to see a declaration made on behalf of the Mohawk Council of Ganawage because this Monday marked 45 years where our people declared that we were going to return to a traditional government in our community. And all of that culminates with this as well, you know, how when the peacemaker came and our nations united and we agreed that we would do things in a peaceful way and we wouldn't be at war with each other anymore. So there's so many things that are happening. We're on this path of reconciliation together. As Mike said, you know, we could see what has happened historically, but now we're going to learn from those mistakes and we're going to find a new way forward. And I think, you know, McGill being an inspiration now for other institutions, other organizations, and other people to really mean well about this path of reconciliation and having a true and genuine relationship with the First Nations people and the original peoples of this land. You know, there's so many people who come from other countries, other places all around the world. They don't even know the history. They don't even know that the Kanien'kehá:ka people or the Haudenosaunee people still exist. I remember not that long ago just being in high school and people were like, "What? You're native? I thought your people don't exist anymore," or that you live in igloos. The misconceptions were unbelievable. You know, but now when I see in terms of 30 years how far along things have come and how further they're going to be in the next 30 years from now if we continue on this path of joining hands, acknowledging past wrongs, and saying we're going to do better, putting our collective minds together and seeing what we can do. And young people, you know, we see these flags everywhere. Every child matters. But every person matters. You know, in our culture, we say everybody is born with certain gifts, certain responsibilities that the Creator intended them to bring into this lifetime. We have a short lifetime. We say we have notches on a stick, and there's going to come that day when our life ends. But what do we want to be remembered for? What kind of a footprint, what kind of impact did we leave for our people? Or maybe not just our people and our culture and our race of people, but for all people. We would want to be remembered that we tried to be the best that we could be in a very tumultuous world that we're living in right now. You know, there's war, there's all kind of things, there's so much division, so much hatred, bullying, you name it. How are our young people supposed to find their path with all of this noise? It's up to us as people to show them that it can be done, that we can create good paths, good opportunities, because we believe that we're all connected. We're all a part of the Creator, a part of the great mystery of life. And we know that because when we all touch our skin, we're warm. So that means we have that essence in us, and we know that when the person is deceased and you touch them and they become cold, that essence have left them, and we all have that in us. So in essence, we're all a part of the Creator. We all have a responsibility to be the best people that we could be. And I'm so honored to be a spokesperson on behalf of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. There might be a time in the near future where that is not the case, but I like to believe in the 15 years that I was serving my people, I did the best that I could. And I hope that the people here at McGill, you know, you continue on a path and you recognize that today was a great day where you put your best foot forward and you did something amazing for the Haudenosaunee students, and I'm sure into the future other First Nations, Indigenous students. So I just want to thank all of you from my heart, sincerely, on behalf of Mohawk Council, for the initiative that was put forth today. It's a step in the right direction. It's truly reconciliation in action, and those are the kind of initiatives we want to see moving forward. So with that, let that be in your minds. Toniawana Genyao Goazo Guego.
Niwa Miigwech for those inspiring words. It's now a pleasure for me to welcome up Professor Christopher Manfredi, our Provost and Executive Vice President Academic here.
Miigwech Celeste, I would like to begin by acknowledging that McGill University is on land, which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. We acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose presence marks this territory on which peoples of the entire world now gather. Niwa, Professor Loft, Mike, for your meaningful presence here today and for your kind words at the beginning. I want to thank all the members of the extended McGill and Indigenous communities joining us today for this landmark ceremony. I'm delighted that Grand Chief of Kahnawake, Kasanawahi Sky Deer is joining us today. My senior leadership team and I had the privilege to be hosted at the Longhouse back in November, and we had productive exchanges with the Grand Chief along with several members of the community there. J'aimerais souligner la présence de M. Yann Lafrenière, ministre responsable des relations avec les Premières Nations, les Inuits, au sein du gouvernement du Québec, que nous avons le plaisir d'accueillir aujourd'hui. J'aimerais également saluer et remercier M. Francis Véro-Paul d'être de retour avec nous aujourd'hui. Vos exploits sur la patinoire sont légendaires et nous sommes honorés de vous compter parmi les diplômés de McGill. Bienvenue à tous nos distingués invités, et merci d'être ici pour cette cérémonie importante. Since 2018, the raising of the Hiawatha Wampum Belt Flag is always an emotional and deeply resonant moment. The flag is a symbol of peace and unity, and today's ceremony is an occasion to recognize our shared and sometimes difficult history, to focus our awareness of the Indigenous heritage of this land on which we are gathered, and to reflect on the path toward reconciliation and the shared future we aim to build together. I would like to take a moment to reflect on how we find ourselves here now. In 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada published its reports and calls to action. Ce que l'on a appris à travers les témoignages et les écrits de la Commission de vérité et réconciliation du Canada m'a profondément touché personnellement. Quand j'ai commencé mon mandat comme Provost, j'ai pu constater que plusieurs initiatives de réconciliation existaient dans notre communauté et qu'il serait essentiel d'effectuer un travail concerné pour les réunir et développer un plan d'action global à McGill en réponse au rapport final de la Commission. Universities have a key role to play with respect to our collective response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. We are reminded that our collective efforts for reconciliation are aimed at redressing historical legacy of injustice and restoring relationships with communities that have come forward to express the profound harm inflicted on them by Canada's Indian residential school system and its legacies. The final report of McGill's Task Force on Indigenous Studies and Indigenous Education, with its own important calls to action, was submitted 7 years ago and has been the driver of our own efforts since then. I just want to mention that Mike mentioned the Hochelaga rock. We launched the task force as we commemorated the moving of that rock to a more prominent place, and the task force report was presented at that rock, so it's a very important place in what we've been doing. While there is much that must still be done, we have made progress, thanks to the efforts of many committed members of our community, to whom I extend my warmest thanks. Je suis heureux de constater l'augmentation du nombre de professeurs et membres du personnel administratif ainsi que d'étudiants issus des communautés autochtones qui se sont joints à notre université dans les dernières années, une tendance qui continue de s'accélérer. I'm also deeply thankful for the work that Associate Provost Pedri-Spade and her team have done to develop McGill's policy on Indigenous membership and citizenship validation, which was adopted by the McGill Senate and Board of Governors this May. This was an essential milestone in our responses to our own calls to action. We heard it loud and clear from the multiple communities who wrote to us in support of this policy and when we visited Kanawake in November. Today, we mark another milestone in our responses to our calls to action with the announcement of McGill's Indigenous Tuition Initiative, which will be presented by Associate Provost Pedri-Spade and our Associate Director for Indigenous Student Success, Thomasina Phillips. This initiative builds on other recent efforts to increase Indigenous student support and success, including the McGill Conrad Undergraduate Award, which provides Indigenous undergraduate students with $5,000 per year. We often speak about McGill's mission of teaching and research and our duty to serve our society in fulfilling this mission. The Indigenous Tuition Initiative grows out of McGill's responsibility to serve local and proximate Indigenous communities and has the potential to make the pathway to higher education more accessible for Indigenous learners. It is also born out of our ongoing efforts to strengthen our relationship with the Indigenous communities of Quebec and Canada, something that is essential if we are to move forward towards reconciliation. So, in anticipation of tomorrow's National Indigenous Peoples Day, we also reaffirm our commitment to building bridges and maintaining an open, constructive, and respectful dialogue with all stakeholders from Indigenous communities. You can rest assured that McGill University will continue the essential work of advancing the 52 calls to action, ensuring Indigenous voices, ideas, histories, and discoveries challenge, enrich, and shape the future of our university in meaningful ways. Miigwech, Niwa, Nakrumik, thank you, merci.
Niwa, miigwech, Chris, for those words. It's now a pleasure to welcome up Monsieur Francis Veron-Paul, who's the Chief of Staff for the Assembly of First Nations, Quebec and Labrador, to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Celeste. Quoi everyone, quoi kasnu. I'm Francis Veron-Paul. I'm from Maastricht in the Innu Nation. It's a small community in Lac Saint-Jean, and as Celeste mentioned, I'm the Chief of Staff at for the Assembly First Nation at Quebec Labrador. So first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that McGill is on unceded territory and located on a territory that has a long and rich history of occupation and stewardship by First Nation, thanks to the Kaninkeaga and the Anishinaabe. Also want to thank Mr. Mike for the opening and wisdom words and sharing to us all these, and put us in a good spirit, and all of your work and commitment that you've done all over the years for McGill and for the First Nation. I really want to acknowledge that. Also want to acknowledge the presence of Grand Chief Skydeer and Chief Montour, Ministre Lafrenière, bonjour. Également, Professor Manfredi, good to see you again. It's been a little while, and all of you in the room, thanks for being here. Thanks for being with us for this very important announcement. So, as mentioned, I'm a McGill graduate, so I'm extremely proud of it, and I do have a special attachment to this place. A lot of great memories. Won the national championship with the McGill hockey team, and I think it was the first time for McGill. And again, thanks to McGill for giving me the honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame of McGill. So that was a great honor. So, like I was saying, and I think also want to acknowledge that real changes takes courage and humility, and I think the FNQL would like to acknowledge that for McGill. The FNQL has always tried to respond present when asked by education institution to participate and collaborate with education institution. We do so because we firmly believe that education is a prominent vector in the healing and reconciliation journey. Moreover, education is intrinsically linked to the self-determination of our First Nation, which is and has always been a goal of our nations. In 2021, the FNQL launched a self-determination office. But today we are here to celebrate a very special announcement related to increased supports available to Indigenous students, and more specifically for our brothers and sisters of Akwesasne, Kanawake, Kanisatake, Six Nation, as well as other communities. This is part of McGill University 50 calls to action, and the FNQL definitely applauds this ambitious plan. This is how you set the bar for others to follow and keep breaking barriers. Let's keep canoeing together, respecting our traditions and cultures while reinforcing our relationship again, thanks for having me, thanks for the invitation, and bon mois des peuples autochtones. Merci beaucoup encore.
Miigwech, Francis Nyawa. Now it's a pleasure for me to welcome up my colleague. She's like, me? Is it now? Thomasina Phillips. Thomasina is the Associate Director of Indigenous Student Success here at McGill. And together we're going to provide, we're going to take turns and provide a little bit more background and context and details around this new initiative. So again, McGill's pathway towards reconciliation is outlined in 52 concrete actions, and they're organized around 5 categories. So those first 17 calls outline actions related to advancing Indigenous student support. And it's important to recognize that that's that call number 13 called upon McGill to implement an Indigenous tuition initiative similar to the Haudenosaunee Promise at Syracuse University. So this is something that we know other universities have implemented, including the University of Toronto most recently and the University of Waterloo. So again, beginning in the fall of 2024, McGill University will cover tuition and mandatory fees for Indigenous students who are members of local and proximate First Nation communities, as well as Indigenous students learning within programs delivered through Indigenous partnership agreements within the School of Social Work, the School of Continuing Studies, and the Office of First Nations and Inuit Education. So again, this tuition initiative will be rolled out in stages. So this initial group of eligible students will be from communities closely connected to the university. This includes Mohawk communities of Ganawage, Ganasitage, and Akwesasne, including St. Regis. So when we were envisioning this first phase, it was important that we operate from a position of territoriality. We have a land acknowledgement, and we wanted to act on this acknowledgement. The initial phase will also include Indigenous students from 6 nations of the Grand River. While located in what is now Ontario, the inclusion of 6 nations of the Grand River signals McGill's recognition of how in the 19th century, this institution benefited from a federal government loan linked to funds allocated to the 6 nations of the Grand River. So in the spirit of redress and reconciliation, students from 6 nations of the Grand River will be included in the first phase of this new Indigenous tuition initiative. We then wanted to recognize that, that other than approaching this based on history and relationships with land, we need to honor long-standing relationships with other Indigenous communities and their respective organizations, because McGill has had decades-long relationships supported by specific educational partnerships. So another group that will be eligible as part of this first phase are prospective and current diploma Indigenous students in the School of Social Work, the School of Continuing Studies, and the Office of First Nations and Inuit Education, who are learning through an educational partnerships within several groups, and there are 17. So again, I think to effect meaningful change, it's important to think about Indigenous students in a relational way. Though supporting individual students is a primary goal, I think we can't and shouldn't view Indigenous students disconnected from their respective communities, their nations, and homelands. We can't forget that we are reconciling with the legacy of Indian education in Canada, which means we are reconciling with the forced removal of Indigenous peoples from their families and their communities. Therefore, it makes sense that a pathway towards reconciliation would acknowledge and honor Indigenous students' relationships with community and place. So before I pass this over to my wonderful colleague here, who I have to say has been leading this with such grace and doing such hard work, Thomasina, and I know Thomasina has a list of thank yous. I just wanted to thank you for this work and your leadership in bringing this to fruition. And again, she's got a list of details, and I'd also like to thank my unit, the Office of Indigenous Initiatives. We are a small but mighty unit. We have under Ann Deere, who helped coordinate her team with the logistics of today, and Geraldine King, who helps guide a lot of our pedagogical and curriculum support. And again, my colleagues in the Provost office, who again help in so many ways to bring this forward. And again, we have more thank yous. Pass it over to you.
Sego, everyone. I'm Thomasina Phillips. I'm Ganyakahaga from Ganawage. And as Celeste mentioned, I'm the Associate Director of Indigenous Student Success here at McGill. My role is to, within our office and with the support of others, advance the calls to action which pertain to Indigenous student success and support here at the institution. And I'm really excited to see everyone here today. It's been a very long time that this has been in development. It may not seem like that for those of you who have been in communication with me over the past month. But I began working on this last summer, really starting to make initial contact with education authorities with whom we had no solid connection with myself. And it's been a process of understanding who your students are and what your needs are and how you work internally. And so I want to acknowledge you and include you in the thank yous, because you took the time to explain to me how things work for you and how this initiative actually could be possible for you to take part in and help advance. So nyawa for that. Yes, I wanted to acknowledge Ann Deer's team as well for coordinating today. It was a massive undertaking, so nyawa. With regards to the initiative, after receiving the signal from the Provost's office and the wholehearted support, we worked very closely with the Scholarship and Student Aid Office initially to provide us with guidance on how we should be approaching this and the different options available for implementation. And with that, we were able to then approach the Strategic Enrollment Analysis Planning and Budget Office and say, this is what we're trying to achieve. How can we do it in a way that's feasible at this time for the institution in terms of institutional readiness and all of the other logistics. So we relied heavily on them in supporting us with data. We also worked very closely with student accounts who provided us with technical expertise needed to also implement this, and who will be playing a very pivotal role in implementing this come the fall. So that is a lot of labor, and I want to acknowledge Jessica, who's here representing today, as well as the directorship and the leadership in the Office of Student Accounts. We also were able to work very closely with the Office of First Nations and Inuit Education and the School of Continuing Studies, as well as the School of Social Work, who are the folks who are holding all of these important relationships with Indigenous community and maintaining those. And that's a lot of labor and a lot of work. And I know that you go above and beyond to maintain those connections and to work in ways that Indigenous communities want to be engaged, which is really important. So you're also going to be part of how this is implemented in the fall, and so Nyawagoa for being a part of that as well. We worked with faith keepers and language speakers to develop a name for this initiative that I guess encompasses the spirit of what this initiative is aiming to achieve. And that also has been a bit of a development because, of course, there's various interpretations, and we want to, approach this in a respectful way. I myself am not a fluent speaker, so I guess I can take a stab at it. No pressure in a room full of Ganyakahaga people. But we worked with Ganasoho Deer and Ganawage, and we also had folks from Aguzasne weighing in, and I just heard another interpretation based on our name. So I think that more firmly we will be able to launch this in the fall. But we are working around, I guess, a working name of Skatne Ndidamwa Dardarwe, which is meant to convey the promotion of friendship. And I recently just heard the strengthening of our minds towards a friendship, which would be Skatne Ogura Ndidamwa Dardarwe. So that, I guess, will be more firm. There's more work to do. With any new initiative, we are going to understand areas that we may have missed. But I know that everyone involved is very supportive and eager to make this happen for the Indigenous students who you represent and work with. And so I thank you for that, because truly this was a massive team collaboration effort, and it will continue to be. The aim of this initiative is to support Indigenous students' educational choices, to remove financial barriers for students, to increase the number of First Nations, Métis, Inuit students and graduates, and to support Indigenous community strategy through the offsetting of tuition costs, tuition and mandatory fees. It's also an act of reconciliation, a very concrete step towards implementing 52 calls to action. And of course, we want to be sure that we can measure Indigenous student success to be able to inform our future policy decisions. This is not a single event, as you've heard today. This is part of an ongoing and larger process. So while today is very important, there's a lot more work to do, and we will continue to do that work. I also want to acknowledge, because I see a lot of my colleagues here in the room who maybe have not been very involved in this, but who are involved in their own unit or in their own programs and ways in supporting Indigenous students. There's a lot of unseen, I guess, labor on your part for supporting students through whatever challenges they face, as well as celebrating their successes, however big, however small, however they define them. So we know one another, and we all see each other, and we I guess we're all a larger team supporting Indigenous students, making this place more welcoming for them. So now I'm supposed to speak a little bit about the guidelines. No, a little bit. Okay, so you know what? Maybe I'll go like this. The guidelines have been. Yes, they've been in development for quite a while, and they are prepared 99.99% to be distributed tomorrow morning. You should receive an email from me with, don't freak out, it's a 20-page document, but 9 of them are the actual guidelines and how you should go about implementing. 10 are FAQs, 10 are gonna help you kind of understand, how does this work? What if I have a student in this situation, et cetera. So. We try to do our best to prepare you in advance. I know that with new initiatives, like I said, there is going to be a bit of a learning curve and maybe a bit of a bumpier ride, but I am available in the coming days and weeks to work with you to answer your questions so that we're all feeling more prepared to be able to do this for the fall. I'm going to leave it there. So now I'll go for your time, and I'll pass it back to Celeste.
Niawa miigwech, Thomasina. Do you want to say miigwech? She's importante. She's like, okay, she's going to be here. Because I know, a hard no. It's okay. Amigwe can help. So to close, I just wanted to say thank you again to all of the participants for being here today, all of you. We will be having a lunch. The food's over there, and we will come back in here, and you're welcome to stay for it. To close, I'd like to invite Professor Rob Spade, who's a professor in the School of Music. He's also a cultural advisor in the Provost office, to sing a closing song. Again, there's a lot of firsts that I feel very privileged to be supporting with a wonderful team. And speaking of firsts, I think it's the first time there's been an Ojibwe song and drum course offered in the School of Music, which just wrapped up. So I know Rob has been part of that.
Bonjour. Gijago nani Indigenous cause na main dotem Obakamacong na doji. My English name is Rob Spade. My Indian name means heaven man. I'm from the Sturgeon clan. And the place I'm from is in English the Albany River. And in the middle of that, we call that Obakamacong, is in the middle between by Fort Hope, where that is. The Canadians, they put Fort Hope on my status card, but we didn't live like that. We lived in a prospector tent when I was young. I think I'm the last generation to live like that in my family. And life is a learning journey. There's so much to know and wonder about. There's so many things to inspire us. I was asking our elder, Mike, what I could sing about, and I think he made a really good point. Even when he was talking, when he was young, there was no Indian place out here. There was no Indian office. And I'm saying Indian because that's what's on my status card. Not Aboriginal, not Indigenous. My status card says Indian on it. And that's why I use it. So that way we will never forget the laws that come with that. I have this number that's put on there. It tells the people who I am. It tells them my pedigree. It comes from when they were raising cows. They gave the cows this number, and then they gave us Indians these numbers too, so they'd know which one mated with who and where. And that's still in my wallet right now. We're making changes here, all of us, in our own way. All of us that are here, in our own way, we're making changes. We're having conversations that sometimes are very tough. We can't always agree, and that's okay. We have to have that balance of yes and no. My clan, the Sturgeon clan, where I'm from, we're situated between the Crane and the Loon. Those are our leadership clans. And the Sturgeon is put in the middle to kind of mediate between the two. It gave the people two leadership styles, what the people needed at that time. I want to share a song that was taught to me by my friend Morris Shapakizik. Our families have known each other since the beginning of time. One of the oldest relationships on earth. We should be in National Geographic, maybe. But I like telling stories, right? Yeah, she says, yeah. Anyway, this song, all these songs are stories. There was one that went A, B, C, D, E, you know, a bit of Mozart. They took that one and threw some language in there. Our songs are like that. They're very deep. They have a lot of thought. You could spend your whole life with that song. A song is like a person in our culture. All things are living. A song is like if I came and met your mother, I came to your home, you would know her in a different way than I do. And it depends on how I approach that. These songs are the same. We call this the Otewegan. It's the way of the heart. I come from a matriarchal society. The women gave us everything. All the knowledge, all the lodges. They gave us the drums. They know about life. And they gave us these things so that we could understand and have roots too, to try to begin to understand. This song is about, it's about the people that paved the way for us today, that are continuing, our leaders, our leadership. Leadership, my dad always said, is a lonely place. You can't make everybody happy. We must pray for them. We don't have to have a religion. You just have to have a thought sometimes in the morning. Say, oh, I wish the best for our leaders today. And that's a prayer. It's not long. It's honest. It's not a show. It's done in our heart minds. It's done in relationship with what we know. This song is calling to attention these people, our elders, my elders, no matter where you're from on earth, you are my elder if you're older than me. You carried life all this time. You know how. You might not be an elder with a pipe or a drum. You're a different kind of elder with a type of knowledge of this world, of our world. We are society. We can't all be plumbers or electricians. Very special people, each and every one of you. I hope that in your prayers you believe that. This song is about the ones that have brought us here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Miigwech, my language, miigwech, thank you for your work. the continued work. Thank you. That is, sometimes I get asked, what's the lyrics? There's really no lyrics. It's these sounds that we make, these vocable sounds, the way, ya, and hey, represents the language of our spirits, of humanity's spirit. And all our souls speak together when we agree. And we're making a future for, our young ones. We have my daughter here, my Danis. She is a 7th generation jingle dress dancer. Celeste is 6th generation jingle dress dancer. We're making a future for my kids, for your kids, your grandkids, my grandkids, for the ones that we will not meet. I hope we endeavor and remember that, and remember the whole eternity before and after. I thank you. Miigwech. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Rob. Again, I just wanted to wrap up by conveying my heartfelt miigweches, miawa, to everybody who's here today. It's wonderful to see a packed room, and it's cooler in here probably than out there, right? Again, to our distinguished guests, thank you for being here today and helping us celebrate. There's food. There's food. We eat. We sunin, right? We eat when we come together. And so I believe, right, Anne? Dear is going to say, yep. Yep. And if you, we're not sure about our schedule of our guests, but if you can stick around for a photo, that'd be great. And again, everybody else, again, miigwech, thank you for being here.